Most people are exhausted not because they're lazy, but because they're feeding their bodies like machines designed to break down. You ever wonder why some people bounce out of bed, dominate their day, and stay sharp even at night, while others crawl through life, always tired, always reaching for the next cup of coffee? It's not luck. It's not genetics. It's fuel. Today, I'm going to give you 5 foods backed by real science that will raise your energy levels. Not temporary spikes, not sugar highs, but foods that shift your biology into high performance mode. If you're serious about having more mental clarity, better workouts, faster recovery, and all-day drive, lock in. Let's rewire how you think about energy. Most people think energy is just about sleep. And they'll say, I need more rest, or I'm just tired today. But here's the truth, and it isn't just how you feel. Energy is a system. It's a biological signal. And like any system, and it can either be optimized or neglected. If you're constantly feeling low, dragging yourself through the day, relying on caffeine to get by, there's a high chance you're not managing the input signals your body actually needs. Let's break that down. Every cell in your body runs on a fuel called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Think of it like the energy currency for your entire system. But ATP doesn't just appear. Your body makes it through a series of complex processes. Metabolic pathways that rely on nutrients, hydration, oxygen, and hormonal balance. In other words, when you eat something, you're not just feeding your stomach. You're giving instructions to your cells, your brain, your hormones. Now, most people treat food like it's about flavor, about fullness. But the food you eat is sending code into your body. Every bite is a message to your metabolism. Go faster, go slower, store energy, release it, stay focused, or shut down. You're not just eating, you're programming. So if you're choosing the wrong foods, if you're starting your morning with high sugar, low fiber, no protein, you're literally telling your system to crash by 10:30 a.m. Energy is just about how much you sleep. It's not just about exercise. It's about how well your system is fueled. And fueling isn't random. It's deliberate. It's targeted. You need inputs that trigger the right responses. Foods that activate energy, producing mitochondria in your cells, and that stabilize your blood glucose, that support neurotransmitter production, and that reduce inflammation at the neural level. Because if the brain is inflamed, even mildly, you will feel it as mental fog, low drive, poor mood, and that dragging sense of, I can't get going. But the beautiful part is this: we control that. The system responds immediately when you provide the right nutrients. And energy is trainable. You can actually teach your body to become more alert, more enervated, not with a supplement, not with a shortcut, but with consistent signals from the food you choose. Think about this when you eat refined carbs, white bread, sugar-heavy snacks, processed breakfast cereals. You're spiking your blood sugar. Yes, you'll feel a quick hit, but then insulin floods your system, crashes your glucose levels, and you feel worse than before. That's not a lack of motivation. That's biology reacting to poor fuel. On the flip side, if you eat food that has fiber, healthy fat, and protein, your glucose response is stable. Your energy remains level. You don't need another coffee. You're already dialed in. And there's also another layer: neurochemistry. The foods you eat impact the release of neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and acetylcholine. These chemicals are not just about mood, they're about drive. They influence your ability to stay locked in, to resist distraction, to push through effort. You want more energy. You need to support these systems by choosing foods that contain the amino acids, vitamins, and minerals that your brain uses as raw materials. That's how you get sustained mental clarity. Not bursts, and not peaks, but precision. And energy is about precision. When someone says they're always tired, what they're really saying is, my system is misfiring. And that's a fixable problem. When you start to respect energy as a system instead of just chasing a feeling, everything changes. You stop looking for hacks and start mastering your physiology. That's where real power comes from, and not from hype, not from motivation, but from knowing how your body works and feeding it accordingly. You don't need more sleep. You need better input. You don't need more caffeine. You need foods that trigger clean energy at the cellular level. When you understand that, you stop being a slave to fatigue. You become the one in control. And control, that's where energy begins. Let's talk about something people overlook every day. Something simple: ordinary, sitting in almost every kitchen across the world, yet completely underestimated when it comes to energy, focus, and performance. Eggs. Now, most people think of eggs as just a breakfast item, maybe something you fry up in the morning or something you toss aside because you've been told it's high in cholesterol. But the truth is, eggs are one of the most powerful tools you can use to support real, sustainable energy, not the fake kind, not the jittery kind. I'm talking about the kind of energy that stabilizes your blood sugar. And if you supports your brain and keeps you mentally alert for hours, that kind. Here's what people don't realize. One egg contains almost every nutrient your body needs to function at a high level. And more importantly, it contains something called choline. Choline is the precursor to a neurotransmitter known as acetylcholine. That matters because acetylcholine is responsible for your attention and your focus, your ability to move muscles, and even how quickly you can process information. If you want sharp thinking, quicker decision-making, and clear focus, you need acetylcholine. And eggs are one of the best sources of the raw material that builds it. Now think about what happens when most people start their day. They grab a piece of toast, maybe some cereal, or maybe even nothing at all. Then they feel groggy mid-morning, start reaching for caffeine, and wonder why they can't concentrate. It's not because they're unmotivated, and it's not because they're lazy. It's because they haven't given their brain the tools it needs to fire. You can literally change your cognitive state in the first 30 minutes of your day by what you eat. 2 eggs, that's it. You're getting choline, high-quality protein, and healthy fat, all of which help you stay focused and energized. There's no crash. There's no spike. It's stable, reliable energy because you're working with your biology instead of fighting against it. And that protein inside the egg, it's one of the most complete protein sources on the planet. It contains all 9 essential amino acids. That matters because those amino acids are the building blocks for neurotransmitters, muscle recovery, immune function, and even hormone regulation. When your system is fueled with those building blocks, it doesn't just function, it performs. We often talk about energy like it's some mystery, like it's hidden inside another cup of coffee or buried in a motivational podcast. But the truth is, energy starts with what you feed your body and your brain. And what you feed yourself in the morning sets the trajectory for the rest of the day. Now let's go a layer deeper. That cholesterol in eggs that everyone's afraid of, it's actually necessary for your body. Your brain is made up of nearly 60% fat. Cholesterol is essential for hormone production, especially testosterone and estrogen. It supports cell membrane integrity and helps your brain cells communicate effectively. You need it. You just need it in the right form. From whole, real foods like eggs. If you not from processed junk that inflames your system and confuses your metabolism. When you start your day with 2 eggs, you're not just eating. You're activating your brain. You're sending a signal to your nervous system that says, let's go. You're stabilizing your glucose, preventing a crash, and giving your mitochondria, the energy centers in your cells, exactly what they need to start producing ATP efficiently. This is how you build consistent, clear energy, not for 30 minutes, but for hours. And when you do this day after day, something incredible happens. Your baseline shifts. You stop operating in survival mode. You stop needing stimulants. If you start feeling more in control of your focus, your motivation, and your output, all because you gave your body what it needed at the beginning of the day. And there's a refill foggy in the afternoon, a reason your mind drifts, your motivation drops, and your energy dips, even when you've had enough sleep. And it's not because you're weak or lazy or unproductive. It's because the communication line between your gut and your brain is either open or it's blocked. That line is real. It's biological. It's called the gut-brain axis, and it plays a massive role in how you feel, how you think, and how much energy you have throughout the day. Here's what's important to understand. Inside your gut lives a dense, highly active community of bacteria. These aren't just passengers, they're regulators. They influence everything from your mood to your immune system to your mental stamina. When your gut microbiome is healthy, your brain performs at a higher level. When it's inflamed or unbalanced, you feel it as fatigue, brain fog, irritability, and low drive. Now, most people ignore this connection entirely. They eat food that feeds their taste buds, not their biology. But when you start to feed the organisms that fuel your brain, everything shifts. One of the most powerful combinations to support this system is Greek yogurt paired with berries. Not for flavor, not for trend, but for function. And Greek yogurt contains live active cultures, probiotics, that support the balance of healthy bacteria in your gut. These probiotics communicate directly with your nervous system through the vagus nerve. They influence the production of neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. That means your mood, your focus, your motivation. They're not just emotional states. They're biochemical realities driven by what's happening in your gut. Now combine that with berries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. These are rich in antioxidants and polyphenols. They reduce oxidative stress and inflammation, especially in the brain. Inflammation is one of the biggest hidden enemies of energy. It's not loud. It's not always obvious, but it slows down your neurons, dulls your thinking, and drains your system. And most people are walking a mindly inflamed without even realizing it. When you bring these two together, Greek yogurt and berries, you're attacking the problem from both ends. You're feeding the gut with beneficial bacteria, and you're calming the brain by reducing inflammation. The result, more clarity, more energy, better mood, and it doesn't take hours. It doesn't require a 10-step routine. It takes 5 minutes, one bowl. That's it. Let's take it further. Greek yogurt also contains a high amount of protein, especially casein, which digests more slowly. This means your blood sugar remains stable for longer. No sharp spikes, no hard crashes, just a consistent release of energy that keeps your brain and body balanced. That's key, because unstable blood sugar is one of the fastest ways to destroy momentum. When it drops too low, your brain literally cannot function at full speed. It's like trying to drive a car with no fuel in the tank. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Your gut bacteria can influence your circadian rhythm. That's right. The microbes inside your digestive system actually help regulate your internal clock. They respond to what you eat, when you eat, and how consistently you eat. So when you nourish them with the right inputs, foods like Greek yogurt and antioxidant-rich berries, you're not just boosting energy for the next hour. You're aligning your system for the entire day, even improving how will you wind down at night. This is the science people ignore. They want fast fixes, but real, lasting energy starts with understanding the systems. Your body isn't a black box. It's an ecosystem. You can either pollute it or you can optimize it. If you want more energy, you don't need another shot of espresso. And you need to respect the relationship between your gut and your brain. You need to eat like your neurons depend on it, because they do. And when you do that consistently, when you give your body the tools it actually needs, you don't just feel better. You become unstoppable. And there's something powerful sitting on grocery store shelves that most people walk past without thinking twice. It's small, it's dark, and if you use it correctly, it can light your brain up like a switch. I'm talking about dark chocolate, real dark chocolate, not the sugar-loaded kind. I mean 70% cacao or higher, the bitter stuff, the stuff that, when used intentionally, becomes a weapon for your mind. People often think of chocolate as a treat, something to indulge in. But if you look at the compounds inside it, the chemical structure, it tells a different story. Dark chocolate is one of the few natural sources of a compound called theobromine. It's a close relative of caffeine, but with a smoother, more sustained effect. It doesn't spike your nervous system the way caffeine does. It gently stimulates your brain, supporting alertness and mental clarity over time, not just for a quick burst. Theobromine works by blocking a molecule in your brain called adenosine. That's the chemical that builds up throughout the day and makes you feel tired. When you block adenosine, you stay more alert, more focused, and more present. But what's special about theobromine is that it doesn't just block fatigue. It enhances your ability to stay in a mentally active state without the agitation and crash that caffeine often brings. But there's more. Dark chocolate also triggers the release of endorphins and dopamine, two powerful neurotransmitters tied to mood and motivation. When dopamine rises, your ability to lock in and pursue goals increases. When endorphins rise, your stress response calms down. So in a matter of minutes, If you can shift your state from scattered and drained to focused and driven simply by using this natural nutrient-dense tool in the right way. And it's not just about how you feel in the moment. Dark chocolate is rich in flavonoids, a group of antioxidants that directly support brain function. These compounds improve blood flow to the brain, which means more oxygen, more nutrients, and better communication between neurons. And when your brain is receiving more blood flow, you process information faster, your memory improves, and your mental stamina increases. That's not wishful thinking. That's physiology. Now, here's what matters most: quality and quantity. You don't need a bar of chocolate. You don't even need half. A small square, 10 to 15 grams, is enough to create a measurable effect. It's not about indulgence. It's about intention. You're using food to change your state. That's real performance nutrition. There's also a hidden benefit most people overlook. Dark chocolate contains magnesium, a mineral that plays a critical role in more than 300 biochemical reactions in the body, many of which are directly related to energy focus and stress regulation. Magnesium helps calm the nervous system, regulates muscle and nerve function, and supports the conversion of food into usable energy. And most people are deficient in it, which means adding just a little dark chocolate into your routine doesn't just give you a boost. It helps correct a common imbalance that's been draining your system for months or even years. And this is what happens when you start to view food as fuel, as chemistry, as strategy, not just satisfaction. You take control of your energy instead of reacting to it. You don't wait to feel better. You make yourself feel better by giving your system the right inputs. You begin to realize that your body and brain are responsive. They're constantly adjusting to what you feed them. And when you feed them wisely, you start to operate in a completely different gear. So if you find yourself hitting that afternoon wall, if your mind starts to wander, if your energy dips and your motivation fades, don't reach for another stimulant. Reach for something smarter. Reach for something natural. Something that sharpens rather than spikes. Something that energizes without stealing tomorrow's clarity. And there's a silent thief stealing energy from millions of people every day. It doesn't make a sound. It doesn't cause pain, but it leaves you feeling heavy, slow, unfocused, and drained. And the worst part, most people don't even realize it's happening. They blame stress. They blame lack of sleep. They blame work or life or age. But the truth is, in many cases, what they're really experiencing is simple dehydration. Now, I'm not talking about the kind of dehydration where you collapse on a hiking trail or after an intense workout. I'm talking about low-grade chronic dehydration, the kind that builds up quietly and robs your brain of its sharpness, your muscles of their strength, your mood of its balance, and your day of its momentum. The human body is over 60% water. The brain alone is about 75% water. Every system you rely on, your nervous system, your circulatory system, your metabolism runs on hydration. But here's where it gets even more important. It's not just about drinking water. It's about how your body absorbs and uses water. And that's where most people fall short. They wake up groggy and reach for coffee. They drink water but still feel tired. Why? Because water without electrolytes is like trying to power a machine without plugging it in all the way. You need the minerals, specifically sodium, magnesium, and potassium, to transport that water into your cells where it actually matters. One of the simplest but most powerful ways to increase your energy instantly, especially in the morning, is to drink 500 milliliters of water with a pinch of pink Himalayan salt. Not a handful, just a pinch. That salt contains trace minerals your body needs to regulate fluid balance, nerve signals, and muscle function. It helps your cells retain the water you drink. It makes hydration functional. See, overnight, while you sleep, your body loses a significant amount of water through respiration and sweat. That means by the time you wake up, you're already starting from behind you. And if the first thing you put in your body is caffeine, which is a diuretic, you're only digging the hole deeper. But when you hydrate correctly first thing in the morning with water and minerals, you signal to your brain, we're back online. You restore volume in your blood. You reawaken your nervous system. You allow electrical signals in the brain and body to travel more efficiently. And that matters because your neurons fire using electrolytic charge. That's not metaphor. That's literal science. Your thoughts, your ability to focus, your reaction time, all depend on how well hydrated you are at a cellular level. You don't just feel more alert when you're hydrated. You are more alert. Your brain becomes faster, sharper, more capable. Hydration also impacts hormone regulation, especially cortisol and adrenaline, two major players in how energized and alert you feel. Without enough hydration, cortisol levels can rise unnecessarily, creating internal stress and inflammation. But when you hydrate properly, you help your body regulate those systems more efficiently, reducing internal friction and allowing your energy to flow naturally without that tight, wired, anxious edge. Now, here's the key. You don't need to overthink this. You don't need a fancy supplement. You don't need a $50 electrolyte packet. What you need is consistency, a routine. Start your day with a glass of water and a pinch of quality salt. Build the habit. Stack it with your morning sunlight exposure or your breath work or whatever gets you grounded. But lock it in, because if you win your morning physiology, you set the tone for the entire day. And it's not about drinking more. It's about drinking smarter. You don't want to flood your body with water that rushes through and does nothing. You want it to stay, to nourish, to energize. And that only happens when you give your body what it's asking for. Clean water, supported by the minerals it was designed to work with. You want instant energy. You want better focus. You want a calmer, more focused version of yourself in the morning. Don't skip this. Don't overlook it because it's simple. Simple things done consistently create the biggest change. And when your cells are hydrated, your brain is switched on, and your system is balanced, you move through the world like you were built to lead it. There's a concept most people never consider when they talk about energy. They think it's all about how much sleep they got, whether they worked out, or if they had enough caffeine. But there's a far more powerful force working behind the scenes, something that determines whether your body stores energy or releases it, your blood sugar. It's the silent regulator. And when you understand how to keep it stable, you unlock a level of energy and mental clarity most people never experience. See, the body operates best in balance. When your blood sugar is too high, insulin floods your system to bring it down. When it drops too low, your body kicks out stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline just to keep you awake and functioning. That constant roller coaster burns people out. It's why they feel amazing after a big carb heavy meal, then crash hard an hour later. It's not a lack of discipline. It's a lack of metabolic control. And the food you eat either stabilizes your system or sabotages it. So let's bring it into focus. If you want clean, consistent energy, you need foods that deliver glucose slowly. Foods that don't spike your blood sugar, but release it gradually so your brain and body stay steady. And that's where certain combinations come in. When you combine healthy fats, high quality protein, and complex carbohydrates, your system gets the signal to stay calm, focused, and energized. This is where something like oats with almond butter and chia seeds becomes powerful. You've got fiber, which slows down digestion and prevents a glucose spike. You've got healthy fats, which buffer the absorption even more. And you've got just enough natural carbohydrate to feed the brain without overwhelming the system. It's not about cutting carbs. It's about controlling the rate at which your body digests and uses them. Now, here's the mistake most people make. They wake up and immediately grab for sugar. Cereal, a white toast, sweetened coffee juice. All of that rushes into the bloodstream. You feel alive for maybe 30 minutes. But what happens next is predictably insulin spikes, blood sugar crashes, and your brain goes into emergency mode. That crash is what creates brain fog. It's what kills your motivation. It's why you can't focus in the meeting or stay alert at your desk. And it's not that you're unproductive. It's that your system is unstable. But when you start your day with foods that promote stability, like a couple of eggs, avocado, or plain Greek yogurt with flax seeds, you're literally telling your biology to stay balanced. You're feeding your brain in a way that says, no rush, no panic, we're steady. And when your biology is steady, your thoughts become steady, your decisions become clearer, your energy becomes sustainable. This balance also affects your hormones in a huge way. Insulin and cortisol don't just regulate energy, they impact inflammation, fat storage, and even brain chemistry. So when you stabilize your blood sugar, you're not just avoiding an energy dip, you're reducing internal stress, you're keeping inflammation low, And when inflammation is low, your brain functions at a higher level. You can think faster and speak with more confidence and stay mentally locked in longer. It's also worth noting that energy isn't just about physical stamina. It's about emotional control. And blood sugar instability creates emotional instability. That's why you get irritated when you're hungry. That's why small problems seem massive when your glucose crashes. But if you learn to keep your system fueled properly, you don't just stay energized. You become more emotionally resilient, more mentally grounded. And that changes everything. So what's the real takeaway? Energy isn't a mystery. It's not something you have to chase. It's something you can train. And food is the training ground. Every meal, every bite is a choice to either spike and crash or fuel and focus. And when you make the right choice consistently, you rewire your biology to support the life you want to live. This isn't about dieting. It's about design. Designing a system that doesn't burn out, doesn't rely on luck, and doesn't need to be fixed every afternoon with sugar or caffeine. And it's about creating a foundation where energy flows because the body is working with you, not against you.